The following is an excerpt from the According to Metal podcast. Joining us on According to Metal this episode, another great guest from another great band that sadly many haven't heard of, but they're making a lot of noise, especially north of us in Canada. Big tour they're kicking off very, very soon. New album coming out really soon as well. And, you know, I just got to be honest with you, Head. I'm late to the party of this band, and it bothers me that I am because I got to tell you, I did not get a chance to review, or we didn't get a chance to review their album that came out in 2016, because if we did, it would have been Album of the Year material in the category. So shame on us, but we're going to be on board for the one coming out soon. And speaking of soon, we're going to get details about that album, because joining us on According to Metal is Tim Brown, guitarist from the band Striker. New album coming out.
What's up?
We're looking forward to it. Tim, welcome to According to Metal, buddy. What's up?
I'm just happy to be here.
Well, Tim, I got to tell you, in kind of researching for the interview, because just like Jason said, actually neither one of us, and I'm very in tune with metal all around the world, and I had not come across you before. So how that happened, I have no idea. But when I was doing research for the interview, one of my favorite sources is Encyclopedia Metallum, or metalarchives.com. And when they have that little blurb at the top of the page, it says topics, that are sung about, or however it's listed. And yours says metal, beer, and death. I can't think of anything better than that. Did you put that up there yourself, or was that something that a fan created?
No, that's. I think everything up there is something that someone else has put up there. But yeah, I'm a fan of the Metal Archives too. I've definitely spent many a night just getting lost in the archives.
From a guitar standpoint, especially, I know you being relatively newer to the band or newer to the fold. When I hear you from a guitar standpoint, and this is just what my ears hear, I hear a combination of like Shred Sean. And even some very Holy Grail Eli Santana-ish like riffing, but sometimes on a grander scale. I mean, you guys have a very cool niche that I think you really, really hit as far as very, it's got an 80s sound to it, but it's just straight out just kick-ass metal, man. It's great stuff. Where do you get your influences from as far as what you do when it comes to writing new music and stuff like that?
Well, first off, I'm glad that you're digging it. Yeah, I guess our songs are all about kind of, at least for me, when I'm writing songs and stuff, it's to me, it's kind of, when you're writing a song, what you're really doing is almost trying to communicate like an emotion or a feeling or something like that. And I think a big part of what Striker is what we're trying to communicate is like fun or good times or enjoying yourself. Or that's like what to me at least, that's what the sound of Striker is. It's like having a good time being yourself, There's a lot of other metal bands that it's very dark and gloomy and evil and stuff. And there's also a lot of bands that are kind of in the more happy-go-lucky, have fun stuff. But a lot of the bands, at least to me, that kind of had that more fun appeal to them were mostly 80s bands, which is why I think we have a lot of comparisons to those 80s bands. And I think probably why we are so similar to them is because we try to get that same kind of vibe out. But that being said, we love lots of modern music as well.
Yeah. It's a very good combination. Like, you have a lot of the sing-along choruses and a lot of the things you love about some of the more catchy and just memorable 80s stuff, but it doesn't sound like it's a time capsule, band either. I mean, you guys are definitely modern and current. It's just a really cool conglomeration of like different eras, I think, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. There's a lot of bands, kind of like the new wave of traditional metal. Like there's lots of cool bands, and there's lots of ones that are doing cool things, but I think one of the pitfalls of that genre is oftentimes certain bands might just be trying to rehash like old Judas Priest songs or something. And I mean, like, that's great. Everybody loves Judas Priest, but if I wanted to listen to Judas Priest songs, I just listen to Judas Priest, right? So they did their thing, and it's time to move on and try and do something kind of new. So we always try and mix things up in sort of a new mishmash that hopefully sounds fresh and so far it seems people are digging it. So we just hope that more people can help spread the word.
Well, speaking of spreading the word, now I have to say when I looked at your Facebook page, I was absolutely shocked and stunned by the number of likes that you have. You have almost 91,000 likes. Now, to put that in perspective for people that don't necessarily pay attention to that, Theocracy, which is a huge band on the rise, has 56,000. Threshold, a band who's been around forever and has a nice following in Europe, has 34,000 likes. So a two-part question for you, Tim. Number one, how is it you have 90,000 likes and you fly under the radar? And number two, what are you doing right now to get that kind of attention for your band, and how can younger bands do what it is you're doing?
Well, a big thing for us is we went independent with our last album, Stand in the Fire. So we released it ourselves. And before that, when we were on our old label, Napalm Records, it was kind of like, they kind of did some posts and we did some posts. I mean, for the most part, we had full control over our Facebook, but they were doing some of the more, we kind of leaned on them to do do promo and stuff, and as we should have, that's their job, right? But since we're independent now, it's 100% us. And so when we want to promote something, I mean, as a band now, we run our own label, so we do those, we have to make those label oriented decisions. So when we're looking at things like how do we reach people, how do we get heard, how do we get noticed, well, one of those big things, especially nowadays, is social media. And I mean, like, just getting out there, and we have a digital marketing consultant. I mean, we have our marketing team is like 10 different companies right now, so we have we're working with a lot of people, and they give us a lot of good guidance, and we also work really hard. So I mean, those 90,000 people that you see on our Facebook, well, we met most of those people out on the road on tour, or we maybe messaged them, or they messaged us, or however it goes. I mean, you got to be working at it all the time. So I mean, today, like, we had our new pre-order came out for our new album, and I've been spending all day on the computer. I've been writing emails, writing proposals, on Facebook, getting our ad manager going, all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want results, you got to go out there and make them yourself. So that's true no matter what band you are, whether you're on a label, a big band on a big label, or a small band just starting out. If you want something to happen, you got to go make it happen. Get busy.
Well, and you mentioned a lot of your likes and a lot of your participation is from people you've ran into on tour and connecting with fans and stuff like that. One of the things I think that you mentioned, and whether we want to discuss this or not, it's just kind of an unfortunate reality of music as a whole, metal especially, where we live in a day and age where people don't want to pay for music. Essentially, there's kind of this idea that music is free. And, touring becomes a big way that you're able to kind of A, get your name out there, and then B, make some money, hopefully. You had made mention of this because we love to discuss the business portion of metal, because it's a thing that I think a lot of fans don't understand. And one of the things you mentioned on your Facebook page months ago was the increase in visa costs to tour the United States. And let me give you, and I want to obviously get your thoughts on that, but, Biv and I saw with Circus Maximus a couple months ago, fellow Canadian band Ascendia was opening up for them at the show, and he made mention, dude, this is the first time we've been in the States. And I'm like, I've heard of Ascendia. Ascendia is a pretty big name. They got one album out there, but it's a really killer album. They're from Toronto. You know what I mean? It's not like they're from Switzerland or something. I mean, they're from Toronto.
Yeah,
they've never been to the States. And then I read what you said, and I said, I wonder if that has anything to do with that in regards to just it costs. You said something like a 40% increase in just visa costs just to get into the States. So kind of walk us a little bit through that and kind of, what goes through the mind of a lot of bands, even just coming to the United States as far as touring is concerned. Does it make it that much more difficult to do?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a huge pain in the ass now. I mean, for us to go over to Europe, basically we just get on a plane. And that's it. There is nothing. There's no visa. There's no nothing. We can walk in through the airport with our guitars and as much merch as we can carry. At the border, what's in that box? Oh, we have 300 vinyl. We're like, oh, okay, cool. come on in. Like they don't care that it's a totally different culture. But in the United States, I think the laws were created at a time when, like, I think the laws regarding musicians coming in were probably created, or at least last modified, maybe like 30, 40 years ago, or people are thinking about it in a way like, say 50 years ago, my dad was a musician, right? And I mean, there was no such thing as a DJ. If you wanted live music, you had to have a band. I mean, if you wanted to go to a dance, it was a band. If you wanted whatever, there's bands everywhere all the time, and especially like orchestras and this and that. My dad was just in like a cover band, just a bar band, but there's always been this aspect of kind of like American protectionism in kind of like a political sphere where you can kind of see it in good old Mr. Trump these days, build a wall, we're going to protect America. And so that's kind of, at least for me, that's where I see where those laws kind of come from the kind of political heritage where they're trying to protect American musicians. But in this day and age, I mean, when Stryker comes to town, we're playing with all kinds of local bands. We're buying beer. Everybody is there. Like, they're trying to, the laws are trying to protect against money leaving the United States. But I mean, it's just the opposite. When we come to town, we blow all our freaking money on beer and stuff because it's so expensive. We're spending way more money on beer, on hotels, on fuel, on freaking toll roads, whatever it is. But I mean, going on tour is a huge undertaking for us, and it is really expensive because nowadays you have to apply 120 days before you enter the United States, and you have to apply with every single contract for every single show. And so, say you wanted to get an extra show, well, too bad, you can't. And it's a huge pain in the ass. So I mean, we've done some tours before where a band just snuck over the border. They pretended, oh yeah, we're not playing. They crossed the border, borrowed some gear, and then went away on their way. But I mean, if they catch you, you're banned from the United States for 5 years. You're
Jesus.
Not coming in no matter what. And I mean, it's crazy. When we go over the border, we show up and they look at our permit and they go, oh, cool. And then 10 seconds later, they're on our Facebook, like they're printing off pictures for us to sign and stuff like that. So there's no way you can hide from them because, I mean, it's you're at the border. They're just going to Google you just because they're curious. I mean, it's also part of their job, but they're, a lot of these places, they're not too much exciting happens. An often place for us to cross the border is this place called Sweetgrass or Sweetwater or something, middle of nowhere. So, I mean, when a band comes through, they're like, oh, cool. This is the most interesting part of my week. So, oftentimes they'll just Google you. They'll see everything that you're doing. They can see your tour posters. If you have unannounced shows, you're fucked. You're not going in the country. So it's it's quite the pain in the ass to get in there. But I thought it was bad for Canadians. But about a month ago, I spoke to Sonata Arctica came to town. I was talking to Leaves Eyes, and I was asking them about their visa. And they said they had to apply 6 months before they came into the country because they're from Europe, and that they also had to pay $7,000 to get their visa or something like that. And then they also said that they got declined and that they had to sue the Department of Immigration to get on the tour. It's holy shit.
Wow.
So,
and what's crazy about it is there's a lot of times, and not that I know, not that I'm in a band, but I can't tell you how many times I've been to a show where there's a last-minute change in a band or, somebody's going to fill in for this band and et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's going to have to be a local band then because there's no way you're going to get somebody across the border to do it because it's impossible. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the other part
absolutely.
That sucks, too.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny, too, because we've been asked to do some smaller festivals in the United States and stuff, and they're like, oh, yeah, you want to come play our festival? And we're like, well, I'd love to, but A, you missed the boat for the visa costs. And this and that. And they're like, oh, you don't have to worry about a visa. We won't pay you. And it's like, so you want me to drive like halfway across